Hey everyone, welcome to the Kratom Sobriety Podcast. This is episode 94, and my name is Chris. I'm here with Libby. I am excited to talk about our topic of the week this week, which we've decided is going to be self-care. I think it's something that a lot of people can relate to, whether they're in recovery or not, to be honest.
For sure, self-care is so important to my mental health.
So I'm just curious. I've been thinking about it a lot this week because when I was recovering, getting sober, the first few months, I didn't have a job at the time. I didn't have a lot going on. And so all I focused on was recovery. And then this last couple months, I got a job. I have custody of my son back, which is something I lost when I was using. Everything is just full force and it's all good stuff, but it's a lot. So lately I've been really trying to prioritize self-care more, and I'm trying to figure out what that looks like. What does self-care look like for you?
I think it's really interesting because a lot of people are like, self-care is like a little treat here and there, like a movie. But for me, it's so much more like systemic, like it's a system. Like if I'm not working out and getting my walks in and waking up and doing my morning journaling, I'm probably going to think I'm okay for a while. But when I let it spiral out too long, I'm like not okay. And I start to get really detached and depressed and just really discontent. For me, self-care is more consistent with daily routines, the monotonous stuff that often we don't want to do, even cleaning the house and doing the dishes and making sure things are like legit in my home so that I can come home and be like, okay, I feel good in here, and not home and be like, there's a low level of anxiety all the time and I don't know what that's about.
It's so interesting you say that. I wish people could see our reactions when we're talking to each other, because one thing you said really resonated with me. I actually was talking to a friend today about self-care, and he said that self-care for him is routine. And for a minute, I was like, what does that mean? Because I very much often relate self-care to what you were saying first, like treating myself to something or doing something special. But no, he said self-care for him is routine, is waking up, making his bed, journaling, meditating. Like all of that is self-care because it helps keep his mind in a healthy space and just helps him feel healthy. And that makes sense to me, because the little treats, they make you feel good for a minute or a couple minutes, but the routine aspect of it is like a lifestyle almost. It's like building self-care into your daily life, which makes so much sense to me.
Yeah.
So,
and if you break it down to taking care of yourself, like self-care being that, if you're always like treating yourself, you're not really taking care of yourself at the end of the day. So it's not sustainable. I do a little treat here and there. I like my chocolate and like to take myself to a movie and to take a bath. But I also, those things that I mentioned before, like the journaling and the meditation and the cleaning the house and things like that, are just so fundamental to my recovery and just daily life that, yeah, that's how I define it.
yeah, when I think of self-care too, I often think of what they say in the rooms a lot, which is to look out for HALT if you're hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and they add sometimes stressed or sick to the end of that. But just to look out for those warning signs. I know for a huge part of my self-care is making sure I get enough sleep. There were a couple days when I was feeling super, like I was having really intense cravings, which I don't usually have. And I was like, what is going on? And I really think it was just as simple as I was exhausted. Like I was very tired and I wasn't taking care of myself. And so my mind was just going crazy. So sleep for me is important.
Yeah.
Something as simple as sleep.
My whole life gets crazy when I am sleep deprived. Like I'm so much more emotional. All of my problems seem 10 times bigger and I cannot like function very well. So sleep is a huge thing for me too.
Yeah, absolutely. And also one thing that I think helps a lot too is exercise. I know that helped me when I was able to do it when I was withdrawing from the kratom, but now that I'm off of that, it's a natural mood booster if you do it every day. It's such a good way to take care of your body. There seem There are so many positives with exercise. If you do it outside, you're getting outside, you're taking some time to yourself and prioritizing yourself. You can listen to music while you do it. Exercise is a big one for me.
Yeah, I
It's
think
almost like meditation. Yeah.
for sure. I think
Sorry, go ahead.
oh, you're good. I think you touched on something really important, which is like getting outside too, which is really helpful to get vitamin D, and it's good for your circadian rhythm to get sun in your eyes first thing in the morning. So I haven't been doing it lately, so this is a good reminder, but getting out into nature like first thing in the morning and just like even just taking a walk around the block can be so therapeutic. It can like really transform my day. I can wake up in a really bad mood and do that and just feel like, oh, I don't know what that was about.
Exactly. Yeah, when I'm in a bad mood, a lot of these things that have been told to me that I should do, drink water, drink a lot of water, or journal, or go outside, or take a walk. They sound so simplistic that in my head, I'm like, I'm not going to do those. There's no way those are going to make me feel better. And then I do them and I'm like, oh, they definitely make me feel a whole lot better. That was a huge thing when I was in like the first couple weeks of my recovery. I was feeling very desperate, thank goodness. I would try anything, but I was like, my sponsor told me like, make sure you're like going outside every day. And I was like, and journaling. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. But there's no way that's going to make me feel good. And it did. So I think the simple things are often very effective if we're open to them.
You were listening to your sponsor that early on?
I was so desperate, Libby. I was honestly taking everybody's suggestions and just doing anything.
I think that's good.
Yeah. And there have been many times before where I had relapsed and I hadn't been listening to anything anybody said. So this time I was like, I'll do anything. If there's like even a chance it will make me feel better and work, I will try it. So
yeah, that wasn't a judgment. I'm just like, good for you, because I'm so stubborn. That I also
hear you.
Mentality where if I don't think that's gonna work, it just sounds silly. Like I'm actually not gonna put energy into it because I don't want to put the energy in and then have no payoff and be mad about it. That's a really sick mentality I can get into.
I completely relate to that. Like even like going to meetings and stuff, I was just I do it with everything. If I don't think it's going to work and make me feel better, exactly what you said. I'm not going to put energy into doing it and then just be mad that it didn't work. Like I don't know. So I completely relate to that. And I hope our listeners, I like even worry about recommending go outside, go for a walk, but it might make you feel better. It might help. And it definitely helps me just on a daily basis to do that, to get outside.
It won't hurt.
Exactly. It won't hurt. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. To everyone listening, make sure you take care of yourself this week. Practice some self-care. I've been thinking about it because I know I'm not doing enough of it. And sometimes I feel guilty for doing it because I have a son and it feels selfish sometimes to take care of myself, which doesn't even make sense. That's silly.
Yeah, it's the same thing with your recovery. You've got to fill up your own cup so you can be there for him, take care of him.
That's a good point. Yeah. Thanks, Libby, for the permission to take care of myself.
Anytime.
All right. With that, I think we should introduce this week's guest. Her name is Lily. She has a really great story to tell. And then we have a special Wednesday episode. Our guest is Sean. He's actually my ex-husband. He's coming on to tell his kratom story and his side, what he saw me go through. And we had some interesting revelations. So enjoy the interview. And Libby, as always, it was very nice talking to you.
Likewise.
Hello, everyone. This is Jasmine, and I am here with Lily. Lily, I am so excited to talk to you, mostly because we have very similar kratom experience stories, and I'm just really excited to dive deeper into your story to learn more about you. And to kick things off, I would love to learn more about how you would introduce yourself, Where are you from? What are some hobbies that you're interested in? Different things like that.
Jasmine. So my name is Lily and I'm 37. I live in Napa Valley, California, which is known as wine country. I am newly married this year. I'm 3 months married. My wonderful husband, Peter, and I'm obsessed with cats. I think you are too. I have 2 cats. One is 8 years old named Matcha, and one is a new kitten named Walnut.
Oh, I love matcha and cats. So
they're hyper.
Love it.
What else? I'm very active. I'm a yoga instructor in the Valley and I love to teach and take yoga classes. I love to dance, listen to EDM music. I love to hula hoop and paddleboard and ride my bike and walk and run, just move my body however I can. So, yeah.
Love it. Awesome. I would just like to know more about how you first encountered kratom. I had mentioned that we have similar stories, as in we both fell victim to the infamous kava kratom tonic that a lot of people, more and more people are coming out about now, which I'm really glad that people are being more vocal about their stories just like yours. So yeah, if you could tell us more about how you first encountered it.
Yeah, so I think it's important to start out by saying that I stopped drinking in June of 2021. And so part of my story includes my sobriety story overall, which is when I stopped drinking alcohol. In June of 2021, I was newly single from a long-term relationship and was really struggling in the dating world and realized that I had kept meeting men while I was drinking. And so I thought, okay, let me change the dynamics here and I'll stop drinking and see if I can make authentic connections in the dating world instead of having drunken cocktails and thinking I have a connection when really it's like, oh, we were just drinking. So I spent that whole summer and fall like not drinking. I did a 100-day sober challenge, which I really thought that I would just do 100 days and call it at that and be like, woohoo, I did that. But after 100 days, I really liked how I felt without drinking. And so I kept going. Biggest surprise was to myself. I had a few people say, oh, you should try a year. You should try long term. And I'm like, no, like I'm not doing that. That's dumb. I'm just going to do this thing. And then I'm going to meet someone and then I'll drink again, whatever. But it felt amazing. So I'm like, okay, let's see what happens next. So I'm very vocal online about my life. Whatever I'm doing, I talk about it online. And I was definitely putting in all these search terms and Instagram things like sober curious and sober life and non-alcoholic and sober AF and all these things. So the online world is, okay, this is a sober person looking for wellness drinks and alternatives. And so I started finding that I had this whole new wave of advertisements coming at me. Most of them were stupid, but some of them looked good. Ooh, this is like a euphoric tonic, or this is a calming anti-anxiety drink. And I'm like, oh, that looks nice. Eventually something was marketed towards me that came in a really pretty blue bottle. And it said it had like pineapple and coconut in it and had kava and a little kratom. I don't think I knew what kratom was. I just thought, oh, it's a calming kava drink. And I tend to run anxious. And I thought, ooh, kava is calming. Like, I'll try that. It kept popping up on my feed. It kept showing me advertisements. And during this time, throughout the fall of 2021, I was listening to a lot of wellness podcasts on like how to date authentically and find your soulmate and how to live your healthiest lifestyle and how to be sober. And I listened to 2 podcasts that were about the sober lifestyle run by 2 separate people that were both recovered alcoholics and addicts. They talked about it often. And they chose to use a sponsor of this brand that had been advertising towards me. And it was on all of the sponsored ads of these podcasts for a few episodes. And I'm like, oh, these are sober people. Like they're ex-addicts. Why would I even consider that this product being advertised to me as a new sober person by another sober person would be addictive? Sounds like that happened to you too.
Yes. I resonate with everything that you're saying because
Yeah.
I first discovered the same exact tonic
Yep.
on a podcast that I had been influenced by to buy products on before previously and completely trusted them. At the time, the hosts were taking a hiatus from drinking and they had talked about how wonderful this tonic was. And as someone who's newly sober and quite frankly very vulnerable, that is a very sensitive place to be able to take advantage of that vulnerability. And we could go back and forth on whether we should blame the podcasters or not, because I don't really know if they knew the damage this was going to cause to a lot of people's lives, but we can just keep talking about it moving forward.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so what was your experience like trying this kava kratom tonic for the very first time?
Yeah. So on one of those podcasts, they had a special promotional code for 40% off your first case of 12 of these bottles. And I'm like, that's incredible. Why would I not buy a whole box? I right away did the online subscription of one box a month. I think it brought it down to like under $100. It was normally about $150, $140 for a whole case of this stuff. And I'm like, cool, whatever the discount was, it was great, plus shipping and tax. It ended up being
expensive.
Like a mega deal. And I had never seen it in stores. I had just seen it online, heard about it in podcasts. Like it was all in the world around me, but I hadn't seen it in person yet. And I didn't know anyone in person taking it. And I'm always like the wellness hippie person that likes to try the newest thing. And ooh, what's ashwagandha? I'll try that. What's kava? I'll try that. I don't like to follow the norm. I like to do things differently and I want to do it first. It's just how I've always been.
Same.
Yeah.
Same
Ooh, what's the new thing I can try? And then I'll tell people about it. I don't know, maybe I'm the guinea pig. And in this case, it went bad, but most of the time it was just fun and a way to be creative and explore. But my first case that I ordered, I remember it came the week of Christmas of 2021. And I was excited to try something new and it sounded relaxing and maybe it could lift my mood. As a yoga teacher, I thought maybe it could help with my workouts. I heard that it could help with endurance and just being able to go longer and try to do harder movements. Anyone in the workout world was like, I can lift stronger weights. And anyone running was like, I can run further. I'm like, whatever, let's try it. So these are the things that drew me into it. And it said to take half a bottle and to not drink with alcohol. I'm like, great, I don't drink alcohol. I still don't have anything to worry about. So I had the half bottle. I thought it tasted horrible. It tasted so gross. It was like this green sludgy drink. And I'm like, this is awful, but you just have a swig or two of it and then whatever. And I think within 15 minutes, I felt zing. Is this what coffee is supposed to actually do to you? This makes me energetic and happy and joyful. I want to go talk to people. I want to leave my house. When you're newly sober, it's, I don't want to go out. Everyone's going to drink and everyone's going to talk to me about it. And I don't want to talk about it. And this made me want to leave the house and talk about stuff and be social again. And it's really hard when you're sober and not drinking. I just don't want to have that conversation.
Yeah.
And so
I'm so sorry. My cat is using his litter box next to me.
Cat life.
I'm so sorry.
This is funny.
I'm probably going to have you repeat like the last two
no.
sentences that you said. I'm so sorry. I did not think he's literally being so loud. Let me make sure he's done. Sorry, he's finishing up.
What's your cat's name?
His name is Miller. Yes. He, ironically enough, after the beer when I was still drinking. So.
Oh, wow. Now you're stuck with that. That's funny. It could also just be a nice name.
Yes, exactly. I'm so sorry.
It's fine. My last place was a studio apartment and there was no escape from anything. It's just, here's my life. I can't close the door even on my cat.
Okay, he's done now. I'm so sorry.
That's fine. That's funny.
Let's
I feel
rewind.
like that would happen to me. So I locked my door away from my cats, so they're not involved in this room, but that's a rare occurrence.
But yes, okay.
So
back to, I'm so sorry got distracted and lost track there.
Let's see. I think I was just talking about
leaving your house and like the way it made you feel. Okay.
Yeah. As a new sober person, not drinking It takes a extra courage to want to even leave the house and decide if you want to engage in conversation, because unfortunately it just does come up like, why aren't you drinking? Or, oh, would you like a beer? And no, I don't. And sometimes you're just not in the mood to talk about it. And so I feel like drinking that first dose, it made me feel as if I could go out and face that public and face the conversation and even open up that door again and be okay with talking to people, whether or not I liked what they were talking about. It would be okay. Just gave me a little extra confidence. It was like the liquid courage, but I felt like I was putting on my go talk to people hat. And so eventually it became the I have to do everything hat. I can only put on this hat to leave the house. I have to take a drink of this stuff. But anyway, I don't want to get ahead of things. That's how it started. Yeah.
No, that's such a good point, though, especially with being newly sober. And what I've learned about sobriety is that it takes time to get fully comfortable with yourself. And
yes.
When I started taking the same tonic, I did not give myself enough time to get comfortable in social situations. I'm now realizing that's taken me like 6 months from being sober from this specific tonic.
Yes.
And now I finally feel comfortable and I don't feel weird for not drinking or whatever it is. But I think that's so important for people to take away from this, is giving yourself enough time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like you see this new product, you're excited and you feel good when you take it. So it's like, what problem could come from that? It's something that's made for sober people, and that's to no fault of yours. Like it's very, very predatory in my opinion, the way that the company goes about it. But
it is.
Anyway, so tell me more about just how your use progressed with the kava kratom tonic, what that looked like in your life, if there were specific triggers that progressed the usage even further. What was that like for you?
Yeah, so I wanted to touch on the fact that I'm someone that has dealt with depression and anxiety most of my adult life and has been on some kind of SSRIs or another off and on throughout the last 15 years. And I never wanted to be on them. I don't like to take pills. I'd rather take a tonic or a tincture or an herbal salve and make it go away. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem to work that way, at least for me. But when I started taking this, it was the winter, and I tend to get seasonal affective disorder in addition, which means I will probably be sad for no reason, just because it's the winter for a few months. And so during that time, I noticed that it made me happier and I wanted to go out and talk to people and be bubbly. And when it's raining and cold and dark outside, I definitely don't want to go out and talk to people. And this made me, it helped. It made me social. It made me want to get things done and not mope around in the house like I might do without. And it was my first winter not drinking too. There was a lot of firsts, and it became my new crutch. And it's interesting because unlike a lot of folks that have been interviewed on this show, my usage never ramped up past 1 bottle a day. Like I really never passed. There was one day when I took 2 bottles and it was an all day and all night event. Like I had an event. I was part of it. I was up till midnight for the event, and then there was an after party, and I stayed up past that and until dawn. That was actually the night I met my now husband. It was a very exciting event that I was involved in. And yeah, I took 2 bottles that day. That's the most I ever took in a 24-hour period of time. But otherwise, I stuck to 1 bottle a day or half a bottle or a quarter bottle. What I noticed is that I started using it not just when I was about to go to a party as like a fun little pregame thing, but also, oh, I have an appointment. I'm a little nervous. Oh, I have a dentist appointment. I'm a little nervous. I'm going to have some of that. Oh, I'm going to go see my family. I'm feeling a little anxious about stuff with them right now. I'm going to have some of that. Having little mini pangs of guilt and feeling weird about it. Like, why do I have to take something even though I still at this point thought it was fine and not a problem at all? I didn't even understand the kratom aspect of it. I still thought it was just like an awesome kava drink. Months into it, I thought this is just calming and energizing somehow at the same time. I didn't really question it. And I just started to watch it increase from the sip here and there every couple days or twice a week to every day. And at work, I was starting to not like my job very much. It was not a good alignment for me. I was working in the wine industry for many years, pouring wine. And as a new sober person, I just felt, okay, this is obviously out of alignment. I can't be pouring wine to people all day and talking about it all day, even though I know and I can talk about it without, we're not drinking it with them or anything. Just talking about something that you don't do all day long felt
I can
off.
imagine that was difficult for you.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine doing that, but I understand too. It's like a job that you we're in, and sometimes that is just the way that it is. And
I know. Yeah. So
and I can relate to the not loving the job situation and kratom just making it feel a little bit better. And I want to say too, you had mentioned that your usage didn't get over 1 a day typically, but that your usage is still as valid as someone who was up to 10, 15 bottles a day because it still affected your life, right?
Yes.
And that's the story that we want to tell. And I just appreciate you like sharing that with us and just getting deeper into like how it did affect you, because that's really important.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's part of why I did not think that it was a problem for so long. I'm like, I only have 1 bottle a day or half a bottle a day. I like it. It's like coffee every day. What's the big deal? Like we all have that, or the daily glass of wine that I used to have. This is a swap that I believed was healthier, and it was advertised heavily to me as a healthier, responsible, and great alternative to drinking alcohol. I really thought that this was just my new like after work reward or pre-party event thing that I would do is my fun little ritual. I would offer it to people. I thought it was great. I gave a couple to my family members, my sister, my cousin. I was like, this stuff is awesome. I'm not drinking and it gives me energy and I feel like I can accomplish things. And I even gave one to one of my managers. We had a bunch of managers at the time, all these new people training. It was really chaotic. And one of my managers had just had a new baby. And he was like, oh my God, I'm so tired. My new baby. And I gave him one. I was like, you should try it. Like I thought this stuff was safe. I thought this stuff was fine. I would never have been doling it out if I thought it wasn't. And I even got the affiliate code situation set up. So I had a 20% off code. I started promoting it and posting my code. It just gave me money off my orders. It wasn't like a new way to make money. It was just a discount for me, basically. And a few people bought cases, and luckily none of them got addicted. But I did reach out to them and ask, hey, did this ever do anything? Did it affect you? I'm really worried. It really messed with me. And I just feel like it was something that I did for so long that I didn't doubt my usage. And when I met my now husband in May of 2022, I had been on it for 6 months, thinking everything was cool, was just talking positively about it. And I fell in love with him really fast. And I got really nervous and anxious about that because I had been burned so many times and had so many difficult breakups that just really messed with me. And I got so nervous. Like he lived an hour away, so I would have a tonic and drive to his house. And by the time I got there, it was like in full force, and I felt happy and bubbly and talkative and like ready to see this wonderful man. So that was part of it too. It was like falling in love and being really scared.
Yeah, I relate to that as well. I could relate to also the meeting your husband while you're on this tonic too, and that like actively being a part of your life while you're falling in love and like entering this new phase of your life. Very similar story. By the time my husband and I had gotten engaged, he didn't know me outside of who I was on this tonic. And that was, he gave me a lot of grace and was so supportive. during that, but that was also something that I know you had mentioned you were
Mhm.
scared about and nervous about like this new relationship and just wanting
Mhm.
to be as social as possible. And that's something I fell into as well, but also was just a little nervous of, okay, I'm moving into full sobriety after detoxing from these tonics. And is he going to like the person I am without them?
Yeah.
Because I feel like they really, made me a lot more social, and that was finding my identity in a new way too. And yeah, would
Yes.
love to just know more about it. Was that ever an issue in your relationship, or yeah?
Yes. I'll just say right away, yes. I thought that it was fine. And I feel like it gave me rose colored glasses about a lot of things. And if I was outward looking in on myself, I thought that also had rose colored glasses. Like I couldn't see the problems. And so it took a new partner to be able to reflect that to me, like saying, hey, like, you seem to be drinking these like a lot. And I noticed that you're getting a little more irritable. And we would have arguments that kind of came out of nowhere. And I would find myself getting really defensive and reactive more than ever before. I'm pretty like calm and chill. And my reaction in general to difficult things is either to cry or be quiet. And this had me like speaking up, and I thought I was being like a strong woman and speaking my truth, but really I was going like way too far and just saying things a little too blunt and saying too much, or just not being receptive enough to the other person, not being able to see their side at all. So there were just a lot of arguments that was like, how did that happen? What was that over? And like, why are we even arguing? Just getting really annoyed at things and really irritable. He's doing nothing at all. And I'm like, what is
Yeah.
this? I'm not this annoyed, irritable person.
And that's a major effect of
I
the
know.
tonics is the mood swings, because the high is so short-lived that when you come down, it is irritability, anger. I completely understand that. And
Yeah.
at what point did you realize that these tonics were becoming a problem in your life? And what was, if you had some sort of wake up call moment that you experienced?
Yeah. So there were a couple of wake up calls before I realized that it was a problem. I think that my now husband at the time, he was my boyfriend, when he brought up his concerns and was like, I don't know, like I was researching this and it seems to have kratom in it. And I'm just worried about you. I love you and want to make sure you're being healthy. And oh, you're so healthy. Like I want to make sure that you have all the information. And he would show me these articles and I would just be dismissive. And I was not ready to take in any conflicting information about it. I wanted to just keep believing that it was great. And my best friend in Portland, I would share that I was drinking these tonics and how great I thought they were. And she also expressed concern. And so it was like within 6 or 7 months of me starting to use these, and about halfway through my overall use, I had two very important people in my life expressing concern and bringing up facts about kava and facts about kratom and sending me articles. And I just didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to read it. I also couldn't really read for very long. I know this sounds weird, but I thought I could concentrate and focus really well. And yet I did not want to pick up books. I'm a big reader and I was not reading books because my attention would just go all over the place. Like I would read 2 pages and be like, I can't sit still. I can't focus. I have to reread this page. Did you have that too?
So I did, and it's funny because I feel like on this podcast, a lot of our guests talk about music and not being able to hear music the same and feel it the same. I would say that mine was more with reading as well. Like I had no interest in reading like I do now. Like I read every single day now. And
Great.
yeah, I totally relate to you on that.
Yeah. And even writing, like I love to write. I write down my dreams. Anyone that knows me that's close to me has gotten a long ass text message of some random dream that I had of like, this happened. And then I flew above this thing. And then the cat said this. And then you were there and you said this. Like I had these really long dreams and all my dreams went away and I couldn't write about things. And I remember there was this one turning point where I got this amazing yoga teaching gig. It was going to be this big event, a lot more money than I was used to. And I was already in, but I had to write a 1-paragraph yoga bio, like not difficult, like, who am I? Where am I from? What kind of yoga do I teach? And a couple of facts about myself. And I just broke down like sobbing because my brain and my hands and my everything like were not in alignment. I couldn't think and get my thoughts out. And my boyfriend at the time was sitting by me, like consoling me. Are you okay? What's going on? I'm like, I can't write this yoga bio. I don't know what to say. I can't think about it. I can't get it out. I have to send it. It was just like a freak out over nothing. And the freakouts over nothing, like that was a big one, but it kept coming up and repeating itself in different ways. But that was definitely a turning point. I think that was maybe 9 or 10 months into my use. And then there was a big turning point with someone that I reached out to in Portland who I used to live in Portland for 3 years and I was big into, I used to be a go dancer and I had a lot of friends.
Cool.
Yeah. So I loved to dance and I had a lot of friends that were DJs and just in the entertainment industry. And unfortunately, some of them did end up in the drug and addiction scene long term. And there was one in particular who was a DJ. I know that he had struggled with heavy drug use over the years and he would come and go online. And every once in a while, he would reach out and say, "Hey, what's up, Lily?" And I would always check in and see if he was okay. And this time that he reached out to me, I decided I would ask him if he knew anything about kratom, because this is a guy in the drug scene of Portland. That sounds weird, but I don't know. Maybe it's a different perspective. Maybe he'll say, "Oh, that's nothing." Or I was hoping that he would confirm my thoughts that it was fine and whatever. And unfortunately,
Yeah, it's like you almost don't want to ask about it. That's how I was when I researched the effects of kratom. I didn't really want to know, quite honestly, because
it's
you don't want
coffee.
someone to take away your drug of choice.
Yeah, it's confirmation bias, right? I was also in denial that was a thing, which is confirmation bias. But so this friend, I messaged him and I said, "Hey, have you heard of this product, specifically the one I was on, this tonic?" And he's no. And I'm like, "Okay, have you heard about kava and kratom? Do you know anything about that? Have you heard anything?" He said he didn't know anything about the products, but he started freaking out when I said kratom. And he said that many of his friends had gotten off harder drugs like heroin by using kratom as a harm reduction tool. And he said I should be very careful and to not get sucked down that rabbit hole. And I had huge alarm bells going off. Like, this is someone that has done much harder drugs. I didn't even think this was a drug, but much harder drugs than that. And was warning me that all of his friends on drugs had turned to that and that they couldn't get off of it. And that he's like, "You should never, don't get sucked into it, Lily. Stop doing that while you can. I don't know what that product is, but if it has kratom in it, like, stop." And I'm like, oh God. Oh shit.
Yeah. I know. I understand the feeling. And that's hard to hear because it's like you don't want someone to validate what you have realistically known deep down. And at least for me, I knew it was a problem and was in denial for a while. And you know what made you eventually decide to quit completely?
I would say that I started, so after that conversation, and that was in my head, and my best friend and my boyfriend telling me they're concerned, that kept repeating itself. And I just watched the cycle. Eventually I could see it. I was starting to notice that I had that Pavlov's dog thing going on where I would start to salivate in anticipation of taking my dose, which I thought was super creepy. I'm like at 5:00, I would start to salivate. Oh, I'm about to take it. And then I moved that to 3:00. And then I moved that to 1:00. And then eventually it was like 11 a.m. I'm like, never before noon. And then it was before noon. I started to take it before I taught yoga classes because I thought it helped me focus. It helps with endurance. I thought, and I'm like, it sucks that I have to take this thing before I do what I love, that I'm good at. I don't need this. And I started to notice that at these bigger yoga events that I had fought so dearly over time to get up to this level, to perform on big stages and teach to big crowds and like all these very exciting things, I had all this confidence in the world to speak these words, and I was stumbling on my words, but with confidence, if that makes sense. Like I would say the wrong thing, but I was confidently saying the wrong thing. And if I could watch it now, I'd be like, oh my God, like what was that? And now we're going to touch our left toe, the right hand. Like I would say the wrong thing, like totally the wrong thing. But I was so confident. And that was weird. And that made me...
Yeah, because it gives you this false sense of confidence. And it's also just messing with your mind at the same time. It's a very unique feeling that is hard to describe.
Yeah.
Unless you've experienced it firsthand.
Yes. And watching myself do that, having all these conversations, starting to put it together, I wasn't able to find enough information online or anywhere really about this drink or the ingredients. It was like old studies and I just wasn't finding enough information, and I wanted to see or hear real people talking about like today, like their actual effects right now and their experience right now, not some random old study about kava 100 years ago. It's not helping anyone. Unfortunately, like that's all there is. And there's not enough research. And I found the Reddit subthread of quitting this product in addition to the subreddit quitting kratom. And that is what was the nail in the coffin of, oh shit. Because I just started reading post after post of all these poor souls being like, I'm on day 1. This feels like a nightmare. What is this stuff? This has got to be something else. Oh my God. And my hair is falling out. My skin is dry. I couldn't stop drinking these. I drank them all night. I haven't slept in 3 days. It was just like this waterfall of freakouts. And it was all coming at me like a slap in the face, like 1,000 reality checks of real people in real time with bad spelling and run-on sentences and like real life posts about all the freakouts of this is happening to me right now. I didn't need a study to see that was...
Yeah, because it's interesting that probably even up until this day, Reddit is one of the most insightful resources into the effects of this specific product.
Yes.
Because I also Googled the same thing. I Googled, is this product addictive? And that was the first thing that came up. And that was super scary to read because you're hearing about all of these people who have lost their life savings. They've lost their families. They're getting things like repossessed. Like it just...
Yes.
But yeah, that I completely hear you in just that being a really big wake up call moment. And so after that, and realizing how much of an impact these tonics have had, what was your game plan? Did you plan to taper? Did you plan to quit cold turkey? What did that kind of look like for you?
Yes. So first, I just want to talk about all of the side effects that I was having before I quit and then the side effects afterwards, because I think that's important to know. I feel like there's a lot of talk about how bad it was with withdrawals and all the things that happen to you afterwards, but we don't really hear about, other than the obvious horrible cravings and how you feel crazy, like the other things that were happening body-wise that I thought were, oh, it's just this, oh, it's just that. And I wasn't allowing myself to see it as part of the big picture of this addiction. So right before I quit, I noticed, in addition to the slurred speech, the weird memory issues and talking, like that was all out of alignment. I lost about 10 pounds. And I think that all of that was muscle mass. And I'm a yoga teacher. My body is on display people talk about bodies in yoga. Even though it's not the best thing, I would get compliments all the time of how thin I got. And I honestly thought I was just doing more yoga, and I didn't. So that's something I didn't correlate. I couldn't focus. The bio incident, that was awful. I couldn't focus on anything. I was getting into fights, overly reactive. I was in therapy at this time, but I was not telling my therapist about it. So I was getting all this therapy without the full picture for this poor woman who's probably, what is up with this lady? Another thing, okay, no one has talked about how constipated this shit makes you.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
That is a real issue that I've heard from many people. Yes.
Yeah. So I spent most of my 20s with just a lot of health issues, and like I had IBS, and I had a lot of stomach problems, but I never had constipation. And this stuff, I would go to the bathroom once every 2 days maybe. And I actually was overjoyed at first because I thought that it made me regular. I was like, ooh, once every 2 days, I can predict that. That's cool. That's nice. But I felt like shit in between, and my stomach hurt. The pain was so bad at times that I had to cancel events. So it's making me social and ready to go. And then I'm on the floor groaning because I haven't gone to the bathroom in 2 or 3 days. And I still think that's normal and that I have a regular schedule. And then things like that would happen. I'm like, oh, maybe that's not normal. I wonder if it's that stuff. I had friends like, oh, have you eaten a vegetable? And I'm like, yes, I'm eating vegetables. Have you eaten fruit? Yes. And like, I wonder why. And I'm like, I wonder why.
We'll talk about literally everything,
But
the actual
I don't
problem.
know.
I was like, I'm just stressed at work.
So
That's why
stressed.
I'm tired all the time. And because it plays this trick
Yep.
on you. And there's the honeymoon phase where it's working so wonderfully in your life. And it's like this godsend of a product. And you just feel like it's so life-changing. And
It's
then
great.
it turns on you. Like you had said, it's interesting that you take it to be more social.
Then you're
in
not.
so much pain later on that you
Yeah.
can't even make it to social events.
Yeah.
So that's
And then the last
Yeah.
thing was that, okay, no one else has talked about this either. My teeth turned green.
At what point into your usage did your teeth start changing color? That's so interesting.
So it was like this weird film of green on my teeth that wouldn't quite go away. And it wasn't black, and it wasn't like an overall coloring. It was like this weird tinge of green. And I went to the dentist every 6 months. I was good with all of my appointments. I brushed my teeth and I flossed. Like I wasn't weird about dental hygiene. I was totally consistent, and I was starting to get concerned. What is going on? This is weird. And while I'm taking these kava kratom drinks, I juice every day. I drink smoothies every day. There's spirulina in them. And so I'm eating my vegetables and my salads, and I'm a healthy yoga teacher, and I am eating a lot of green things. And so the dentist, I've never seen this in an adult. There's this one kind of issue that sometimes comes up in children. It's a type of, I don't remember what it was, but it was something very rare that happens to children, basically, and not a grown woman. And they're like, we could treat it like that with this type of like fluoride treatment, this mouth rinse that you do for a couple weeks or something. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Eventually it went away. But I think that's part of me quitting. It was just weird. I just couldn't, there's nothing I could do. They polished my teeth and it wouldn't quite go away. It was gross. I hated it.
So I have not heard that from anyone before, and that's so interesting. But it does affect your teeth. For me, I think it was because I was throwing up after, like when I would take them.
Wow.
But literally chunks of my teeth had fallen out, like in the back of my mouth, and I had to get fillings in those chunks. And I was like, why do I have these holes I can feel in the back of my mouth? And I believe it was from that. I don't know for sure, but it all correlates to match up.
That's so scary.
But yeah,
It's
it's wild what these things can do to your body.
Wow. Okay. So I obviously all of this stuff sucked. It all added up. I'm like, this is bad. So I decided, because I had tried 2 or 3 times on my own to quit. And I was like, I'm just going to stop. I'm just going to not have one tomorrow. This is the last one. This is the last one in my box. I'm going to stop. I'll just not have one. And I did not succeed at that past, I don't know, day 2 or day 3. I would cave and I would go drive to the local gas station 15 minutes away and I would buy one. I'm like, all right, I'll just have one. And then I would order another case and restart. So I was trying on my own quietly to quit. And since that wasn't working, I had read on Reddit about the tapering method. I didn't know that was a thing till I read about it. And this was for the powder format. So this tonic comes in a 2-ounce bottle and it's liquid and you shake it up and it's one substance. But if it's not shaken up, it's this thick sludge that comes to the bottom. So at first, I'm like, oh, I'll just taper by drinking half a bottle or a third of a bottle, like eyeball it. And of course, some of the sludge settles and then you get a bigger high on one of those half doses that you're trying to taper off of. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to play Russian roulette with like, how good is this tapering dose going to be? So I decided to measure it out using, this is super weird and sounds awful, but a cat medicine syringe.
Nothing is too weird on this podcast.
And it wasn't used at all. It was like clean, never used. I had it from one time, my cat being sick. I had an extra syringe and it had milliliters. So I could measure the liquid very efficiently. So I would shake up my bottle. I would put the syringe in there and I would pull out that dose of however many milliliters I needed. And I would take that. And so I looked like an absolute crazy person. I had this piece of paper that was like I don't know, it was the 10 commandments that I would hold every day. I would take it with me and it would be like, day 1, this much at this hour and this much at this hour. Every 90 minutes to 3 hours, I think was a dose, a little bird being fed with sugar water. I was keeping myself alive with this small amount. And I think I was down to just a half bottle maybe when I started my tapering. So I actually gave myself an entire month to taper off of half a bottle a day.
I think that doing what works best for you, though, is what's important. And especially having the sheet in front of you that has the amount that you were going to be taking every single day. I think that's so important because you're physically able to see where it is that you are and like you're able to look at your progress in the long run too. Then I think that's really admirable as well. And like I said, no matter how much you were trying to wean off, obviously it was a problem in your life. So I don't like comparing addictions or anything like that because it's equally as valid, like I had said earlier. But yeah, so how did the tapering work for you? It was a month-long period. What were the end results to that of how are you feeling when you had finally tapered down completely? What were some side effects of if you had withdrawals after tapering? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, so it was definitely a long journey with the tapering. I felt guiltier than ever while I was doing it, and I felt really sneaky. And I felt like even when I was actively trying to get off of this stuff, I felt more like a crazy drug addict than ever before because I had this weird syringe and I had this weird little bag that I had to take to work and I had my weird plastic bag and my paper towel to clean off the syringe and I had to carry this with me everywhere and go into the bathroom for a weird 5-minute period of time and give myself my dose so that I could stop doing it. And I just pretended like I was on my period forever, basically. I'm a woman with a tiny bag.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
What else? Wow, it probably looks like I've been on my period for a whole month at work, but
it's nobody's business.
Don't ask any questions. It's a lady with a bag in the bathroom. But it was so weird. I felt guilty. I felt bad. And I just felt weird. That's the only way to explain it. I didn't feel good. I knew that I could feel better if I took this, but I knew that it was messing with me and I didn't want to get stuck and hooked on it. I remember when I finally got down to the smallest milliliter, it was like 0.5 milliliter, like half an inch of liquid in this syringe. And it was the end of my taper. I was trying to finish the taper before Valentine's Day of 2023. So at this point, I was ending the 13th month of using it, which is the total amount. And I really wanted to finish before Valentine's Day. I actually was hoping and thinking that I was going to get proposed to Valentine's Day weekend, but that didn't happen at that time. We weren't ready yet, but I really wanted to be stone cold sober and fully able to take in the joy of that. And I was thinking that was next in line. So I was like racing against the clock. And I remember that I finished February 6th of 2023. So like a week early, woohoo. And I had 3 bottles left in my case. And I had my piece of paper and I had checked off every single box of every dose and day. And I remember just staring at those 3 bottles like, oh God, I'm going to throw them in the trash. What if I need it again? What if I have to start over? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to start over. Like you become crazy talking at yourself. And I just stared at those 3 bottles and I had them in the box and I walked over to the apartment trash can, the whole giant dumpster. And I just walked like it was, I don't know, like a funeral procession of 1. Me and the box. Okay, procession of 2. I'm like holding the casket of these boxes and I'm walking over. And I'm just like yelling in my head at this process. This sucks. And I'm throwing them out. F you, like this product. And I threw them in the trash really loudly and dramatically so that they would break. And I don't know if they did, but I made sure they went to the bottom of that dumpster. And I took a picture of my empty box. I sent it to my best friend and my boyfriend. And I was like, F this product, like F it.
And I'm
Lots
so
of
proud of you
swearing.
for doing that
Thanks.
too, because it's so hard to do that with 3 full bottles. It's like the back and forth that goes on in your head. Like I said, until you actually experience that feeling with kratom and this specific product, it is just with any substance, really, any struggle with a substance, it's like having the courage and the willpower to throw them away after tapering is amazing. And that's really inspiring. And
thanks.
So how has your life been since quitting? Were there physical withdrawals you experienced after quitting?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the tapering helped with that somewhat.
Yeah.
But one thing that you had pointed out when we talked earlier is that you want to be more vocal about the mental effects of this product long term. And I want to hear more about that because that's something I really struggled with is at 6 months out, just now being at like a good mental place from my addiction. So I would love for you to talk more about those effects.
Thank you. Yeah, withdrawals and side effects during the tapering and after for a while, crying really easily, just at the drop of a hat over nothing and everything. Extreme depression. Unfortunately, I was already prone to that and it just increased a lot. I was already on my SSRIs and I finally reached out to my doctor and embarrassingly was like, I got addicted to this stuff. It has kratom in it. What do I do? Is there anything to help with the withdrawals and process? And she, expressed concern and told me to up my SSRI dose that I was on. And she also prescribed me like a short-term solution bottle of gabapentin, which helped with the panic attacks that ensued shortly after and a few months after. It was panic attacks all the time. I had never struggled with that before. That was a new symptom of the withdrawals and this product leaving my body was panic attacks and inconsolable crying and feeling like the world was ending and just on the floor for an hour, like heavy breathing, crazy feelings, just horrible. I was sweating through the sheets at night for weeks. That was disgusting. I'm like a tiny person that runs cold and being sweaty at night. I'm like, okay, I have empathy for the sweaty night sleepers now because
I want to ask you
gross.
too, this is probably a gross question, but did your sweat have a specific smell to it? Because mine smelled like ammonia and it was horrible.
Oh, wow. I smelled bad. I was detoxing weird, horrible stuff out of my body. And I remember I had BO. I smelled bad. I was taking lots of showers because I was really self-conscious about that. I will say that being completely sober off of alcohol, kratom, weed, everything and anything, I don't have BO anymore. Just going to throw that out there. If you are a stinky person and you stop doing substances, your body is not sweating out as many toxins. Ta-da! So
That's so true.
there you go. When I stopped drinking and I hadn't found kratom yet, I was like, I smell delicious. This is nice. I had no idea. And then it came back and I'm like, I'm stinky again. This is terrible. So that's something that happened.
That's something that I hadn't heard from a lot of other guests too. I'm like, I really struggled with just smelling terrible, the toxins leaving
It's
my
true.
body for a while.
It sounds like you and I are just more self-aware in general and more wellness oriented. And I think, and it's really annoying to hear this. Oh, you're so self-aware. That's so great. And as a very self-aware person, it's hard to know everything that's going on in your mind and body. I'd rather be unaware of some things. Thank you. But it also helps us heal to identify problems like I smell bad. Oh, that was toxins leaving my body. Oh,
yeah,
maybe you never put it together otherwise.
Yes. And that's interesting you say that because it's like oftentimes people like us who are very interested in the wellness aspect, we fall prey even harder to these types of products because they're advertised as such. And I think there can be this level of intense shame associated with it as well because you pride yourself on wellness and taking care of yourself, and you found this new trendy wellness product when that's really hard to cope with mentally. And I don't know if that's something you struggled with too.
Absolutely. I felt completely duped by this product and this industry. And for the first time in my life, I started to feel like I couldn't trust anyone. I felt like everyone was out to get me. I felt super self-conscious. I felt like any supplement or any product could be the next thing that did this to me. And luckily, that hasn't been the case. This is a very special product and did all the horrible things to me. Yeah, it's a niche horror of this world. But I just had a lot of distrust and I was really afraid to connect. And I was afraid to connect with new products and I was afraid to connect with new drinks and things. I lost my playful nature of trying new things because this scared the hell out of me. And another thing that happened with my withdrawals that has lasted quite a long time is anhedonia, which is basically a lack of joy in things that you liked before, like an overall meh feeling. If you liked running and then you tried doing that again, you're like, I guess it's fine. I don't know. And before you'd be like, that felt great. I love running. I found that it was like anhedonia. I didn't know that word until I was in recovery, but that sucks.
Yeah,
I wanted
thank you for bringing
things.
that up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you feel that too?
100%. And up until I would say the 5-month sober mark, I felt that. And I was like, oh no, this product has messed me up for good. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
And I didn't really feel that way when I quit alcohol. I felt like this was way worse. And I'm just starting to enjoy things that I used to love again. And I had this sense of impending doom for 5 months.
Wow.
And it's just that it's like there's not anything in life that's going to bring me joy like this tonic did. And
exactly,
it's very hard to cope with, but it goes away for anyone who's listening and feels nervous about that. Your brain does re-regulate. Yeah, for sure. And just speaking of that, how are you doing today? Like, how many months sober are you? What is life like now? How are you feeling?
So I am, let's see. So right now I'm 3 years and 3 months off of alcohol. I'm a year and 8 months off of kratom. And
congrats.
Thanks. And I'm almost 2 months off of weed, which ended up being a very lovely cross addiction that happened, the whack-a-mole addiction. And it's interesting. 20 months off of kratom. It's okay. That was a wild ride. It was all of 2022. And this was the original formula, by the way. If anyone knows of the formula change in this product, it got a lot less potent later on. But when I was on it, the entire time, it was the max potency that it ever was.
Extremely potent.
Woohoo! Yeah. So
Yeah.
I got the mega OG dose from the very beginning. So yeah, I am 100% sober off of all of the things right now. And I feel like this product opened up the addiction door to me that maybe it was always there and it got triggered by this, or maybe it was, I don't think anything can cause. Anyway, I feel like it ramped up whatever addictive tendency I had, whether or not I was aware of it. It just pushed it into the forefront of my mind. And when I stopped drinking, it was difficult, but it never had a hold on me like this. And this was so difficult to stop and so difficult to get out of my mind. Months after I had stopped, I was still thinking about it. And I started smoking weed as another way to check out and deal with life. And while that was also difficult, it never had me writing out some manic timeline and dosing myself a specific way and like having to hide it. This was the addiction of all addictions. And it was really scary because I couldn't see that I was addicted until it was too late. And I didn't know that it was addictive when I started it. It's if someone had never told me in my life what alcohol was and that it could be addictive, and someone was like, oh, have this drink. And I'm like, this is nice. I like this. And you drink it and then you're stuck, like, and then you get addicted to drinking. One tells you it's bad. Why would you not know? And you wouldn't know.
Yep.
And so this is what happened.
There was
to all
no
of us.
warning.
There's no warning.
Yeah.
Like, I just want there to be warning labels on it. Something that my current therapist told me that I didn't realize is that it takes about 6 months to fully sever that connection of addiction from, ooh, I have a craving, I want a thing, to fix it and reaching out for that thing, whatever it is. If you reach out for a different thing during that 6-month time of stopping, of quitting, then you never fully sever that wiring. So for me, I stopped drinking alcohol. Within that 6 months, I found kratom. Stopping kratom within that 6 months, I ramped up weed. So I'm 2 months off of weed and everything. I've never given myself a chance in over 3 years to fully stop and form that new neuroplasticity of when you crave something, you don't have something. Like, I still have 4 more months to go for my brain to reset, if you will. Not that it cures addiction, but that it like gives you a step forward and like a hope of stopping that full pattern.
Yeah,
Like, that's
100%.
awful.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. It is so easy to fall back into addiction to the same thing or something else in that time frame. And it really, truly is giving yourself time. And I'm really proud of you for doing that, because that's hard. It's like even a day out of quitting something is like something to be really proud of, and to give yourself grace. Anyone listening to this who is struggling, just really giving yourself grace in that time frame of struggling with sobriety and feeling uncomfortable in it, because that's such a normal feeling. And yeah, just thank you for opening up about all of that. And to wrap things up here, is there anything additional you would love to share with the listeners? Would love to talk more about?
Yes, actually, I have about 2 pages of notes left.
Love it.
One thing I wanted to talk about was the similarity to cults. Yes. And another thing I want to talk about is how the use of Kambo medicine helped me with my addiction. You're like, what?
No, I want to hear more about this.
So I have been researching a lot about cults this past year and a half. I've been reading about it. I've been watching all the documentaries about different cults and just learning a lot about it. And one of the terms that's used in the studies of cults is the sunk cost fallacy. Oh, I've already spent this much on this product. I might as well keep buying it. Oh, I've already invested this much money in this cult program. I might as well stay. I've almost made it to this highest level. Like, I'm going to stay. in this thing, even though it's not great for me, even though I might see that it's not a good fit. Like, I've come so far, I might as well, like, what's one more $1,000 I've spent? What's more, I might as well stay in it. There's an author named Amanda Montell who wrote a book called Cultish, which dives into this. And she also has a podcast that is so helpful called Sounds Like a Cult podcast. So she talks a lot about this. But one of the things that's similar between this product and cults is that whenever the participant or user in this case talks about their concerns or worries, it's never the cult, it's never the product. It must just be you.
Wow, that's good. That hit deep.
So, and anyone in the outside world wouldn't understand if they're saying, oh, I'm concerned about you. I'm worried about you. You're getting really heavy into this product. You're getting really heavy into this group or organization. Like, I'm concerned. And you bring it up to the people involved, maybe your friends that do it, maybe the company. I actually emailed the podcaster that got me to buy it through his sponsorship. I messaged him on his Facebook page and I was like, have you ever heard about anyone getting addicted to this? I'm worried. I don't know. And he's, I've never had any problems with it. I've never heard of anyone having any problems with it. I'm sure it's just person to person. And if you know you're addicted to things, you should probably be careful. So again, it's like blaming the victim, blaming the user. And if you're in a cult and you're like, I don't know if I like this guy that's leading this cult, I don't know if I should stay in it. Everyone that you talk to within the cult is like, oh, that's just you. You should do
You're
more.
kind of looking around. Anybody else?
Is anyone else having this? Oh, honey, it's just you.
Yes.
You've got to
or
go
compared
inward.
to
Everyone's fine.
compared to like coffee or sugar.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Oh, it's just you. You could get addicted to coffee. It's fine. Yeah. Yeah. Even if you've watched the Scientology podcast on Netflix, it's super helpful. I think it's called Going Clear, which is what they call it when you reach the highest level of the cults is you go clear. You're like free of all problems or something. But basically, you have to keep signing up for more and more classes and achievements that cost thousands and thousands of dollars. And it's that sunk cost fallacy of once you reach this level, you'll be revered by all and everything. And you can't quit now. You can't leave now. And same with this product.
So interesting.
We drank bottles and bottles of this for months and months. And it's fine. Like, whatever. I like it. I think it's fine. I'll talk to my friends on it. It's fine. And then you're like, oh shit, it's not fine.
And there's so many ways to justify it. Oh, it's a wellness tonic. Oh, it's not alcohol. It's not a harder drug.
Better than this, better than that. At least I'm not doing this. At least I'm not in that other cult where they like kill people.
Exactly. And it's marketed towards sober people. So you're like, I'm still sober.
I'm sober
taking this. So that was my mindset for a long time. That is so interesting in comparison to a cult. I feel like that's very validating to how a lot of people feel that have been hooked on these.
Like you feel so stuck. You are so in that world and that lifestyle. And then you reach out to people in it. You think that you'll get help. I think I sent you a message that was, let's see. It was within this products page, I think on Facebook, someone had asked a question about if there's kratom in it or not. And the person who wrote the post said, our tonic is 10-1 kava over kratom. It would be wrong to call it a kratom shot. It's derived naturally from the plant. Almost all people that have issues with extracts, this isn't an extract. And hello, it is.
It's an extract.
A lot, rude.
1000%.
Lies. So have you heard of Kambo, what I mentioned earlier?
I have not. Let's talk more about that.
Frog medicine. So it's what's on my arm right now. I know this is a podcast, but there's these dots on my arm. I just received Kambo 1 week ago. It's the third time that I've done this. And it's something that's done as a medicine ceremony. It's similar to ayahuasca, except it's not psychedelic. It's not fun at all. You don't do this as an exciting, fun party weekend. It's like a deep detox, deep cleanse. And it's thought to help with addiction and assist in addiction recovery, as well as depression. It's a non-psychedelic Amazonian tree frog and the secretions of the tree frog, and they're applied to your body, and they actually burn a tiny little dot onto your body, and then they apply the frog secretion, and you have it on for 20 minutes, 5 to 20 minutes tops, and you purge, you throw up. Sometimes it comes out the other end too. You feel horrible for 20 minutes. And then when they remove the frog secretion, the Kambo, you stop feeling those feelings. And before you go into ceremony, you set an intention for something that you would like to receive. And what I've noticed is that in addition, I wake up from this ceremony. You don't fall asleep, but I wake up from this ceremony, like I come out of it with some kind of revelation. And I've done this 3 times, all with the same practitioner out of the Bay Area. Her name is Jetta Blaine, and her handle on Instagram is Moonflower Meditations. She's a beautiful, happy, peppy woman who's overcome a lot in her life. And I just felt so safe with her every time. And the first time I did it was a women's wellness retreat, May of 2022. I was on the kratom drinks, didn't think it was a problem. And I really wanted to call in my next love. I wanted to call in my future husband. And so my intention was to be open to receive love. After that ceremony, I met him 3 weeks later.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was the first ceremony. And the second ceremony was November of 22. I was actively on the kratom extracts. I was aware that it was a problem, and I had tried and failed to quit, and I wanted to quit. And my revelation coming out of that was, you have to stop. You have to quit that product. You have to come out of it. Like, I woke up from my haze of, whoa, that was wild. That was a trip. And then my message was, you have to stop that. Angry teacher being like, you stop that now. It was like a firm, commanding voice. That was the message. And then this time, last week, when I did it, my message was pure relief that the worst of my addiction is behind me, that the worst of it is over, that I've made it through all these hurdles. It was like relief. That was the word. Boom. And it has all these healing peptides in it that they're studying for cancer. It travels through the lymph in the body. So it's like a tiny little burn mark. I've done this 3 times. I received 4 points the first and second time. And like, you can't see any of the scarring at all. There's no visible scar. It comes and goes and heals. And it's like a little warrior battle, but it's called Kambo, Kambo. And it's something I want to talk about because it's plant medicine in a way. It's a frog. They don't kill the frog, by the way. It's totally harmless to the frog. You can look it up, but it's been practiced in the Amazon for centuries. And it's something that they would prepare warriors before battle. They would do the Kambo cleanse, and it would give you energy, help with depression and mood. And this is not a short-term fix. Like, this helps you long-term. It's not an endless cure forever, of course, just like anything, but it really helps you get into that next transition. And for me, it was transitioning into meeting the love of my life and getting out of addiction. And it's just another tool in addition to therapy, weekly therapy, in addition to recovery groups. I finally found one that I love because I tried AA for a while and I just felt like I was in the wrong classroom, like it wasn't the right subject for me. After 6 sessions, I was like, okay, I've tried this. I feel weird. I don't like it. It ain't for me. So I found an online recovery group for women and non-binary people called She Recovers Foundation. And they have twice daily meetings. It's like AA, like they have someone leading it that's trained in trauma and whatnot. And then you can share for 3 minutes. And so you hear all these women talk about, I was addicted to alcohol. This is my struggle today. I had child abuse. I had this, I had that. And you just start to form these connections and realize, ooh, I'm not the only one. Ooh, they had that happen too. And so I finally talked about my kratom use within that group online just 2 months ago. And it's been really helpful. And all the meetings are free. They happen every day, morning and night. And it's been a godsend. So that has been very helpful. I wish I knew about that sooner. That's been really great. My life today
That's
is
amazing.
Thank you. My life today
And
is
thank
much
you for
better.
sharing all of those really helpful resources too, because I feel like going back to plant medicine for a second.
Yes.
This product that we got hooked on gives plant medicine a bad rap, or at least it really tainted my view on plant medicine, but I know that's not the case always. So thank you for sharing something that has really been very helpful to you and has been really transformative to you in this recovery group as well. And I'm also in a more like generalized recovery group that you can talk about not just substance abuse, but like trauma and other things that you're recovering from. And it's been so beautiful and helpful. And I'm just really proud of you and the growth that you've been experiencing just in the last couple of months as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's really important to talk to a couple of close people in your life about it, get an accountability buddy, whether or not they understand sober things, like just have someone. That's what everyone says. Tell someone, but tell someone that you want to talk to about it. That's going to be a firm accountability person. My best friend in Portland is very blunt and to the point, and she's like, "I'm concerned about you. You are acting this way. This isn't normal for you. I want to see you thrive and feel good in your skin again." And I'm like, "So do I." Like you have to have someone give it to you straight and be kind, but the fact of the matter is that even if you have these people telling you should stop, I'm worried about you, this is bad, this product is bad, you do have to have that moment of understanding that for yourself. And you're not going to do something about it until you understand that it's not working. But it takes your friends and family, whoever you're talking to, multiple times to plant that seed. So you still need both. You have to have it, and they have to tell you, don't do it.
100%. I always say if it wasn't for my husband, my mom, my best friend, I probably wouldn't be sober today because you can't quit this by yourself. You need people in your life that are going to hold you accountable. And even just putting it out there that you have a problem is a huge, huge step. And that's my first advice to anybody who's struggling with addiction, this tonic specifically, because it is hard to open up about. So yeah, thank you so much for just sharing your story. Yeah. Anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before we wrap things up?
Yes. A couple of things that helped me with the withdrawals and just the overall lingering feelings after this was a lot of calming activities were difficult it was difficult to sit still and be calm and allow myself to relax, even when I was on the product, but afterwards as well. And I had to force myself to lie down and relax. And things that helped me do that were finding saunas. If you can get yourself into an infrared sauna, that's really helpful for detoxing and health overall, but it helps with your mood and it just gives you a little mood boost. And, anything that can help is great. I bought a sauna blanket, which is something it's a few $100s. It's something that you can have in your house and plug in. It looks like a thick yoga mat and you climb into it like a sleeping bag, and it's infrared and it just makes you all warm and cozy. And so I have that when I can't get to a real sauna. And then sound baths have been so helpful to me on my sobriety journey. There's this duo that I follow out of LA called Dynasty Electric with a K at the end. And they wear white robes and they have all the crystals and the beautiful instruments. And they have every week at Friday night, they have a live sound bath that they record on YouTube. And it's free and you can donate $1 if you love them and things. But they do that every Friday night and they have since the pandemic started. That's when I found them. But it was like a ritual and a calming way to find some relief, even just for an hour, was to listen to the sound bath and the chimes and the singing bowls and the crystal bowls. It's like escaping in a calming way for 1 hour. And it helped me feel some relief when you're just reaching for straws, like anything that can help, like that helps for an hour. and an hour is an hour when you're recovering. So that's what I would say.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for sharing that as well. And anything that helped you, I feel like is super valuable because a lot of people resonate with that. And oftentimes in that addiction, we want to cling to anything that can help us in that moment. And it's just getting past it minute by minute sometimes.
Yes.
But yeah, no, thank you. Thank you so much again for sharing your story, for being so vulnerable, for talking through so many great topics. I'm really excited for everyone to hear this interview. And we, just appreciate you being a part of the podcast. And thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. It's been really cool to come full circle from listening to your podcast episode and realizing, oh my God, that sounds like me and how I found it. And then now you're interviewing me and here we are. And it's been great to talk it out with someone who gets it. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. It's very therapeutic. It's just sharing those experiences. And yeah, I love being able to talk about it because it's something that people should know more about. But awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you.
Kratom in the headlines. This is Charlie. In today's news bit is from a TV station in Texas. There's a good video of it on the internet. You can also read it. It's called Austin Sober Living House Warns About Kratom Use. One of the things that I thought one more striking, this sober facility, they're testing people for kratom nowadays, and they're just seeing a big rise in people coming in and needing help with kratom. The manager of the house said he knows somebody that's consuming more than 10 bottles of kratom per day. Quote, "This is coming from a guy who is addicted to real opiates. And he told me that is the worst addiction he's ever had in his life." Unquote. That's what many of the people we interview on this podcast are saying. Just another evidence that kratom is like a drug for many people, and it can be very problematic. And this leads me to a little caveat I want to talk about. In terms of any facility, whether it's a sober house, a rehab, or a detox, please shop around, talk to people that have gone to those places and see if they had a good experience, read their reviews, look up the people that are running the place, and shop around. Look at a couple different places before you pick a treatment center, a detox facility, or a sober living house, because there is some variability between different operations. This stems a little bit from the interview I did last Wednesday with the Advanced Rapid Detox with the director of that program, Laura, and I thank her for coming on the show. We wanted to introduce the idea of a facility like that. People did email and DM me. They had some concerns about this particular place. They said the cost was really high. They're worried about whether or not 4 days was enough to help you with your withdrawals. Did they have like evidence-based protocols they used? And those are all legitimate questions. And just briefly, my understanding, the reason it's a 4-day treatment, it's rapid detoxes. The first day they knock all the opiates and the kratom off your receptors and just flush your system of all the drugs. And this is while you're under. And then within 48 hours, they introduce an opiate blocker, the shot form of naltrexone, and you leave the facility on that opiate blocker. For them to administer that shot to you, you have to have all the drugs out of your system where you'd go into precipitated withdrawals. This is not an endorsement of that treatment. I think it is safer than the hotel-based ones that there are. And I talked with Laura, and I feel like she's well-intended. But please do your own research, because all these facilities have different track records, and it is a little bit dependent on the people that are running it. And so buyer beware. Thank you for listening, and keep it kratom free.
Resource of the week. Hey everybody, this is Jacob bringing you our resource of the week. It's been a little while since we had a medicated assisted treatment related resource on the podcast. I found something rather interesting. There's a lot of talk on quitting kratom forums and groups and in the meetings about, particularly for folks that are on medicated assisted treatment, about how long you should be on Suboxone or when to come off it or plans around it. And I found this really good YouTube video. It's only about 3 minutes long. It's literally entitled How Long to Stay on Buprenorphine. It's from the Rittenhouse Psychiatric Associates, so a group of psychiatrists. And the doctor gave a pretty standard answer, which is quite honestly the medical truth, if you will, or the current medical prescribing advice. And that answer is, if you have gone on medicated assisted treatment and you've stabilized on the medication, you really should only think about coming off of it once you have changed the people, places, and things that have led to your addictions. Changing the environment you're in, not associating with the same people that you use drugs and kratom with, the places that you hung out with. You're not going to the smoke shop anymore or hanging out at the kratom bar. If that was a thing, you're not isolating at home and just using all the time. You've made some lifestyle changes. And then things, you've gone and you've done the work. You've put in time to get, healthy and to go to therapy and to go to meetings and to just build your whole lifestyle around it. So those are the important things to consider, but probably the more important thing is, what is your risk factor if you're not on the medication? So a lot of times when people look at medicated assisted treatment for kratom, they just only look at it as, how long can I be on there? When can I get off? And how do I just get completely sober? And that is one way to look at it, but I think most doctors would agree, and I think the personally healthy way to look at it is, what's your risk factor if you get off the medication? If you're someone like me that's been running from a teenager on alcohol and cocaine to opiates as a 20-something, to alcohol again, to opiates again, to kratom, to relapsing over and over again, I don't know when I will be safe and won't be at risk to go back out there. I thought it was going to be a couple months, and then I still had those feelings. I've been slowly decreasing my dose a little bit, and I've noticed that I started to get some cravings again. So these are all the things you have to consider, because it is important to view addiction as a chronic disease. It's not just something that one day you wake up and bam, you're cured, and therefore you don't need any treatment anymore. That's why it's so hard to basically give someone a time frame, and why I sometimes worry a lot when I go onto quitting forums and I see people giving advice of, oh, get off it ASAP, you're just trading addictions, and I don't want to trade addictions. And that is not what medicated assisted treatment is. It is just like taking a medicine like you do for any other chronic condition. The fact that it's a partial opiate agonist should not matter. It's not getting you high. It's not ruining your life. If you're taking a dose as prescribed and you have no side effects, and you're not ending up in the hospital because you're having seizures because you're taking an ungodly amount of kratom, maybe it's better to think about long-term medicated assisted treatment. Now, again, this is not for everybody. This is not an endorsement to do medicated assisted treatment. We are not doctors. We are not gurus. I'm just simply providing a perspective from a patient that's a different perspective maybe than a lot of what you're hearing from people just generally on the internet who are telling you that Suboxone is the worst thing on the planet. So just think about all these things, do your research, and remember that people on the internet, including myself, giving you this advice right now are not doctors, and you should not make medical decisions about your own health based on the experiences of others, because you are a unique individual and you have unique needs, and it's important that those unique needs are considered. Okay, so that might have gone on a little longer than I anticipated, but I had a lot of thoughts around this that I wanted to get out. We support all paths of quitting here at the Kratom Sobriety Podcast, and I hope this resource is helpful to those that are on medicated assisted treatment and thinking about how to move forward, and or our guests that may be considering it. We hope you all have a wonderful day and keep it kratom free.